Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ellen Red. For those of you that don't know me, I am an enlightenment teacher, and I'm guided today to answer some questions that a lot of people have been asking me in terms of, what's going on with Trump and the assassination attempt, and how is this all part of the Great Awakening story that we're experiencing on Earth. If you're new to my channel, please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the full transmission. I would recommend that you listen all the way through because we're going to have to go through a whole series of discussion here in order to get to the end so that you can have the full scope from an enlightened perspective. Enlightenment is the highest version of ourselves in our capacity to see things from the eye of Ra or the eye of God. And obviously, not very many souls on earth have achieved Christ consciousness or enlightenment, so they're seeing things from all different layers. And it creates a lot of confusion and distortion in the collective field because everybody's talking about things from all these different layers of consciousness. Whereas an enlightened being is able to see things from the eye of God and the way that God is looking into the earth to support all souls that are here. And so again, I would ask you to allow me to get through the whole video. I'm going to try to stay on point as much as I can, but I have a lot of things to cover. I wrote a few notes so that I can remember what I'm here to tell you. If you're new to the channel, feel free to like and subscribe. If you like this video, I would ask you to please share it out to others and see if it will help other souls to have a broader view of what's happening in our world. And also with your soul, because the journey of enlightenment is something that every soul at some stage in their journey is going to achieve, whether it be in this lifetime or another. I would ask you first also to remember that politics themselves, the subject of politics, has been really designed to cause people to be divided in their minds. And it creates a lot of chaos and disharmony, which is a playground for negative energies or negative entities, or Satan, if you will. It's very important that no matter what the subject is, that you learn how to unify your mind to get centered into the center cortex of your brain so that you're balancing the left and right side of your brain so that you can receive the whole, what we call it, the silver lining, because that's where the true truth is. That's where source is. That's where true wisdom comes from, is the harmonization of the two sides. Politics has been designed intentionally to get people to either operate off their left side of their brain or their right side of the brain. So depending on if you're more inclined to be a right brain thinker or a left brain thinker, then they catch you in that, and then it pulls you off of track instead of being able to stay unified. This is why dark forces for so long have been able to very easily manipulate and control humanity through things like politics. And it doesn't matter how evolved a soul is until they fully ascend, they're susceptible to sorcery. And our political system in many ways is a form of sorcery, the way that it operates. The way that we as a collective are going to be able to move through that is to be unified in our minds and in our bodies as beings, as human beings together. My background, for those of you that are new here, is that I went through Christ consciousness enlightenment about almost 20 years ago. Enlightenment, Christ consciousness, is what Yeshua went through, Jesus, and it is the highest state of consciousness that a human can achieve. Every human has the potential to achieve this state of consciousness in their spiritual evolution. And spiritual evolution takes many lifetimes and many layers of growth for the soul to go through, archetypal stages and lifetimes in order for them to achieve. Every soul's in various stages of their journey. So this is what humanity really needs to understand when they're out here looking at who's good and who's bad and good and bad and all this. This is actually lower frequency consciousness, because in the highest state of consciousness, there really even is no good and bad, because all things that are happening in these lower states of being, these dualistic events and dualistic experiences, are happening in the highest state for your good, so that you will grow and evolve from them. What that means is that you may be faced with being robbed one day, and it's a horrible event, and it can cause harm to you, and it can be troubling. And in the higher perspective of things, it's happening for your growth. And when you can zoom out from the horrible experience of it as a human, and you can try to see from the soul perspective why it's happening to you, you can learn what the spirit world is trying to teach you, as opposed to being offended by the experience. As we go forward in this conversation, I would like you guys to understand that I don't have a political side that I represent or vote for or care for. I love all souls because I serve God. When we achieve enlightenment, we understand that we're all souls, we're all children of God, and that God has a divine purpose for all of us. And there's no room for hatred towards anybody, because even if they're operating in lower frequency, they are still a child of God, and they are being given the experience and the ability to work with the polarities of positive and negative. Our job as enlightened beings or ascended beings is to help guide those who wish to be guided into true Chris alignment, which is gnosis. As you achieve enlightenment, you will receive gnosis. Gnosis means knowledge of self. And knowledge of self, also gnosis, will lead you through occult teachings in order for you to understand what's hidden from you. I don't serve politics or any politician. I serve only the source. I don't have a preference necessarily, although I see what I see on both sides, and I see the state of evolution that each soul's in their journey. And it's displeasing to the spirit world in certain ways when souls operate negatively, because it creates harm to humanity. This is why it's such a big deal that a president of a country has so much power to influence the public. And if they don't operate in a loving, good, whole, clean way, just like a king of a nation, it hurts the people, and it becomes a very big collective problem, which is why the paradigm of presidents and kings is really a faulty paradigm. It's not the way that it works in the spirit world. And yet humanity is still going through stages of growth in order to uh, embody and live in the true codes here on earth, which would be more of a roundtable environment, even in the politics. Our politics in the United States anyway, maybe in other nations too, was originally designed in a sense to be similar to a roundtable environment, but it has been infiltrated by negative beings. So again, I do not have a preference for politicians. I just see from the eye of God where each soul is and what their role is in humanity. So with that said, I also want to, before I get any deeper with this, I also want you to understand too that religion is very similar. It's designed to get you to think this one's the right one, or this one's the right one, or this one's the right one, and that means all the other ones are bad. And from an enlightened perspective, that is not at all how it works in the higher realms. Every river reaches the sea. All all belief systems hold truth. And God is too omnipresent and too all-knowing to be defined by one particular religious belief or another. These are strands of some truths and then some distortions that have been woven into the religious teachings. And also, it's a way to keep people controlled and divided instead of being truly aligned with spiritual wisdom, with the spiritual laws, to be able to operate with everybody in the world in a balanced way that works in alignment with the true spiritual path. That's hard to understand until you achieve that through working through all of the distortions and realizing and recognizing that all of them in certain ways are telling you the same truth. And all of them also have some distorted belief systems, whether it be because the person who brought it forth was not truly in the light, or whether it be that people who interpreted that information changed it later to create control on you. Your path to enlightenment has to do with you and God directly. And you can learn from many people along the way. You do all the time. But you should always try to keep an open mind. So I would ask you to keep an open mind as I go forward in this discussion, because I'm going to go into some things that I know are going to trigger a lot of people. I would ask you to set aside your emotions, to allow yourself to hear and receive the full transmission so that you can get everything that I'm going to say and work with that after, okay? I also want to tell you that I do have some personal intel on Donald Trump, because I one time before I went through enlightenment dated somebody who was a developer in Las Vegas, and they were friends. And so I had a lot of personal information and experiences there. And again, I'm not coming from a place of judgment at all whatsoever. I'm not coming from a place of hating one side or the other side. I don't hate anybody. I hate bad behavior. And even hate is a strong word. I dislike it very much. It's displeasing to the spirit world. But I love all souls, and I understand a way broader story behind humanity that most humans don't see from the higher worlds, because there's many other dimensions beyond this one that very much have an effect on humanity and what humanity experiences. And so trying to stay on track here, so I apologize if I'm moving around a little bit. I'm trying very hard to be able to bring this information to you as cleanly as possible so that you're not triggered by it, because I know that there's so many people in the collective community that are seeing things from many different perspectives. All of the perspectives have some truth and also some good reasons why they see things the way that they do. I understand that everybody has to question everything and should question everything, including the experience of what happened in the assassination attempt. We can't take things necessarily at face value anymore, because there have been so many nefarious beings who have done things so deeply in the dark, conspiring in many ways, that we do have to look at things inside out, upside down, and backwards in order to get the whole scope. And I honor all of you who are doing that, because it's necessary, even in your own spiritual journey, to look at everything from every angle. I'm going to share things that I was shown in the spirit world for the last 4 years around Trump. I also want you to know that I did not vote for Trump, because I don't engage in that, because I serve only source, and I allow the collective to make the choices that they're making, and I worked only to stay in the center, and I didn't want to be pulled into a divided perspective. You can be mad at me for that if you like, that's okay, but that was my personal choice, and it was based on spiritual state of being that I'm in. I don't expect everybody to do that, and I don't think it would be healthy for everybody to do that. I just chose to do that my personal self 4 years ago, or what was it, 8 years ago now, because I was guided to. Okay. Um, Again, you need to understand that regardless of who is in politics, all of them are imperfect souls, because there's no such thing as a perfect being. We're not perfect. Every one of us is a sinner, if you will. Every one of us is imperfect. And therefore, we all fall out of the grace of the divine all the time. An enlightened soul has reached a state of being where they know how to love the right way and they work at that every single day. It doesn't mean they're perfect. Nobody's perfect. Perfection is also a distortion. It's a false reality that has been implanted in humanity because we are eternal, ever-evolving souls. And when we can understand that about each other, and we can learn what the rules of love are, Christic alignment, then we can walk in a fine line every day and honor the divine properly. Most of humanity is not doing that. Many are trying. Many are doing quite well in lots of ways, but many aren't, which is why we have what we would call the spiritual war. From the highest perspective in an enlightened state of consciousness, there's not even really a spiritual war, because everything that's occurring is occurring for the highest good of all beings. And it's really good that you continue to try to remember that, even if you don't understand, because a lot of times you're going to be given challenging situations that are for your highest good that don't seem very good in the human world. And you have to work with that in order to be able to get to where you can understand why it's happening to you on a soul level. Because the soul world works very differently than the human world. And I promise you, there's a reason I'm bringing this up as we go along to the story of Trump. So please follow along. I'm sorry if it's taking a long time. You just need to work through a few things before I get to the point. Okay. Again, I have had some personal intel on Trump. So I have some personal inside information. And it still doesn't matter. What matters to me is what the spirit shows me. I work for source and I follow only what source shows me, regardless of what I see in this human world. Sometimes I can see with my eyes things and it's still not what the soul shows me. Okay. Trump and Biden and Obama, all of them are not enlightened souls. None of them are enlightened. None of them have achieved the highest state of evolution in a soul level in the eyes of God. That's not where they're at in their journeys. They're each in various stages of journeys. Each one of them has a different soul evolution and soul contract that they're experiencing on Earth. Okay. I also understand that Trump himself there are a lot of collective issues in Trump and in his role in the world right now. A lot of concerns that people have. A lot of people who even want to vote for him or want to like him have been concerned about some of the things that he's done. Some of those are the warp speed. And I would say to you that my knowledge on that is that I do not agree that he had to push it out there. However, I also understand that he, in the role that he has, had to appease both sides who were completely polarity sides, which is why he told people it's your choice to do or don't do. But then he also engaged in making it. Was it right or wrong? It's not my place to say that. It's only the divines, and each person can take that for what it's worth. I'm just trying to go through some of the questions that people were asking me to cover, and so I'm going to try to cover all of them. Is Trump a reptilian? The answer is no. Every soul that's on Earth comes from different star bloodlines. And Trump has a small bit of reptilian in him, as many do, but actually everybody does. Everybody has a small bit of reptilian in them, which means everyone has the capacity to be a reptilian if they follow the path there that could lead them into it, and many do. Some have more of the DNA in them than others. It's very complex. But the truth is that he is not a reptilian. He is basically he is a line of fallen Anu, but even all the souls who are on Earth have Anunnaki DNA in them. and some more than others, and some have different variations and combination sets in their DNA that makes them more susceptible to reptilian or negative ET or demons or whatever you want to call it, that they would become more susceptible to being body snatched or possessed, and therefore working for the dark. Trump is not entirely in the light, and neither is Biden or any other politician that we've had. None have been enlightened. That's the problem with the world, is that the world keeps voting in people who are not enlightened to lead them. And that's a very dangerous situation. It should be a collective of guardians of the light that do those things, but it's backwards in this world. Now, I was given some visions about Trump over the years. Many of you that have followed me before have seen the past videos. About, I don't know, 4 years ago or so, maybe 5 years ago, I made a video called Trump, Star Wars, and the Great Awakening. I would encourage you to watch that video also so that you get the backlog of where I was at 5 years ago and what I was being shown by the spirit world then. I will try to remember to link it into the bio here. If not, it's in my videos. And I will just say that years ago, I was shown the role that Trump has for humanity. Again, him not being an enlightened soul, I was shown the role that he has because everybody on earth has a role, whether they're enlightened or not. Many of you watching this video are also not enlightened, and so that's just the story of the soul. The soul goes through lots of stages before it goes through full-blown enlightenment. And that means that souls are not perfect. They're all making mistakes. They're all going through hardships. They're all doing wrong things that harm others. And therefore, God doesn't need us to be perfect. God needs us to be where we're at in each role for whatever role is that we're playing out in the higher realms. Everything from the highest ascended perspective, everything is staged on earth from the soul world. So was it staged? Well, from the soul world, everything is. Everything. Okay. So Trump's role that he has on earth at this time, what he got led to in his to the end of his life, because he's got, you know, only so many more years ahead, if that. And his role on earth is very important in terms of the Great Awakening, because whether you like him or you don't like him, he's been called forth to be this very flamboyant character in the collective consciousness. Many really, really like him. Many really, really hate him. The divided mind is playing out. The whole dualistic reality is playing out. And he is at the center of that in many ways for the whole collective of Earth. This is a very big and important role. Wrong, right, and everything in between that he is. He is not perfect and he does not do everything right. That's not the point though, because that's not how God sees things. Okay? So when you can take away your feelings of anger towards Biden or Obama or Trump or any of them, and you back up and you zoom in down into them and look at them like, how does God see this playing out in the world? You can start to see the roles that people have a little bit easier, okay? It's concerning that Trump has been backed by some of the same characters that we are at war with in certain ways, if you want to call it war. From the spiritual perspective, looking down into humanity, there's a particular group of beings that have created massive issue for Earth, and they continue to control things and they continue to manipulate things. And Trump has been backed by them in many ways, and he's also worked with many of them in business deals without his awareness of who they really, really, really are behind the scenes from the spiritual realm. He's not aware exactly. And again, he's not perfect, so he's made certain choices. He's very good at business, but he's been in his ego quite extremely in his life. And over the last many years, he has been getting what we would call an ego death. He's been getting put through what we call the tower moment, which is where he's at now. And this is part of his particular spiritual evolution that every soul will have to go through at some stage in some lifetime before they will achieve Christ conscious enlightenment. That's what a Bodhisattva or a yoga master, a rishi master, an ascended master will achieve the enlightenment when they have gone through lifetime upon lifetime until their soul is fully ready to be initiated into the adept mystery schools. And that's what the point of this video really is about. Okay, bear with me here. So again, a few years ago, I was very clearly shown a lot of things about Trump. I was shown that he's in his ego. I was shown that he's so intelligent in some ways and so goofy and not so smart in other ways. And he's been very much in his ego. And when people are in their ego, they do not live by the spirit, and so they don't do the things that are pure from the soul. All of the politicians are in their ego. Some of them very much work for dark ETs. Some of them subconsciously do and don't realize that they're working for ETs. But there aren't any politicians that I've ever seen, ever, that are enlightened. So you must understand that, because the point isn't for a soul to be enlightened or perfect, because there are no perfect souls. And the problem, again, that we have with humanity right now is that we have people bopping each other over the head. You did this wrong, and 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 therefore you're... And that is not the way that the spirit world sees things. And we have to get out of this perfectionism, because it is a demonic implant that we try to hold everyone else accountable to, when there's no such thing. You yourself are not perfect, and I myself am not perfect. I don't get to go around and beating people up because they are not perfect. We have to be able to balance our brains better. We have to be able to hold more space for each other. We have to be able to allow others to go through their soul journey, even as imperfect beings, and stop beating them up for every imperfect thing. You know, in some ways, when we bop each other because somebody did something wrong, we're reminding them, hey, you're going off track over there. There's room for a little bit of that, but there's not room for crucifying souls who are imperfect. We are only here to help align each other. Okay, that's really what it's about. That's what the whole journey on earth is about, is that we're here to reflect back to one another how to polish ourselves. It's a diamond mill, and if you want to be a diamond, you're going to go through polishing, which is what Trump is going through right now. Okay, he is very imperfect diamond, just like many are. And I will tell you that in my own journey, before I went through Christ conscious enlightenment, I didn't think that I was a bad person. I thought I was a great person. I couldn't understand why so many things in my life were going wrong. And they were going wrong because I was living out of alignment with the true Christ codes of the source and the spirit world. And all of the hardships I went through to teach me to shape up. And that's what Trump is going through also right now. Okay. I was also given a vision about 2 or 3 months ago. I was very clearly shown that there was going to be an assassination attempt on Trump. And I shared a video of one of the Simpsons episodes where they predicted it. But I want you to know that they don't predict anything. They write into reality what they are already planning behind the scenes, because they are the same group of beings that are running things from behind the scenes that are nefarious. And when you really follow along, you'll start to understand who's who and what's what. Okay. But I shared it only because I wanted to kind of let you guys know that it was in the air, that it was coming down the line. And also in the vision that I had, or what I was shown by spirit, both through vision, through dream state a few years ago, is that I was very clearly shown that Trump ultimately was going to work for the light. Go ahead, get triggered now. I know that many of you are going to be triggered by that. So I'm going to let you sit for a minute and swallow that down. And then I want you to back up a little, and I want you to understand that you and I are not in control of anybody's spiritual journey. Only the divine is. And that doesn't mean that Trump is a good guy or that he's a bad guy. It means that he's a soul that belongs to God, just like me and you and Obama and Biden and Jeffrey Dahmer and Saint Mary. We all belong to the divine. And we're all playing roles on earth, dark and light, in order to help each other to become polished. And when you can see it from that way, you can just step away from all of that toxic divisiveness, which is toxic. So if you're sending hate mail to my YouTube video right now, just understand you're probably full of toxicity, and you need to try to work through that, because God loves all souls. That means every politician. That means every single person on this planet and every other planet, every soul. God loves every one of them equally. Animals, plants, humans, dark, light, all of it in between. It all belongs to the divine. And the divine cherishes every single soul, no matter how bad we are sometimes, no matter how much sin we commit when we don't live in alignment with true source. And so the source is always behind the scenes, creating environments, co-creating with us, because our higher self is up there agreeing to it too. You never get put through it if your high soul didn't agree to it, okay? Trump's high soul has agreed for him to be put through all of the things he's gone through. The same with Biden, same with Obama, same with all of them, okay? Same with me and you. And when you understand that this is a story about God at the end of the day, all of it is, then you can start to look at it a little softer, so that you don't have to be toxic and upset about things. Look at it from the spiritual perspective. How is God looking at this? God does not say to you, you made a mistake, you pooped your diaper, let me punish you, when you're a little 2-year-old. No, God understands that you're 2 years old, you're in this state of evolution, you've got to go through the journey of that. Okay? When you're in this state of evolution, you're going to be held up to a higher standard spiritually. And when you get in this state of evolution, you're going to be held up to a higher standard spiritually also. Now, you're not going to be pooping your diaper anymore, because you no longer have a justification for that. That's how the spirit world works. So the source is behind the scenes, creating an environment for all beings, okay? And everybody has a role, and everybody's role is beautiful. And so it's a grand orchestra. So I'm going to get to the point now of this part of the video, to just lay it on the table for you, take it, leave it, do whatever you like to do. But I prayed and meditated deeply for the last 2 days so that I could bring forth the cleanest version of information that the spirit world showed me. And again, I was forewarned 5 years ago or 6 years ago that Trump ultimately, after he plays out all these egoic games in his journey, that he was going to end up working for the light. Then I was shown that they were going to attempt to assassinate him. A couple months ago, I was shown that. And I've been shown very, very, very clearly that Trump is being initiated into the light. He's very much not perfect. He's very much made a lot of mistakes, just like I did before I went through enlightenment. I committed some of the worst atrocities that you could imagine. All of the things that we've been taught not to do, I was doing, because in my mind, in this human world, it was so easy to fall into this sorcery. This is the problem. And I can promise you that every single one of you watching this right now has also done the same thing. Made mistakes, made choices, committed sins that you didn't think you were committing, hurt people that you didn't mean to hurt. You just haven't been given a broad role the way that Trump has. And there's a reason why Source chose him for this particular role, to be basically, in a metaphysical way, crucified in front of the public. This is what he's going through, is called a tower moment. From an enlightened perspective, again, he is going through the crucifixion metaphysically, where he is having all of his ego stripped from him. All of these persecutions, all of the monkey business in the courts, all of these things that are happening in many ways are causing his ego to die. And this will need to happen to every one of you. And I promise you that the more perfect you think you are, the more you have ego. Okay? If you think that you're better than Trump, you probably have a big fat ego, because nobody's perfect. And until we humble ourselves, then we will realize that we too are as flawed as everyone else. And our job on earth now is to align with Source and to stop justifying our own bad behavior. And one of our bad behaviors is to be self-righteous and to see ourselves as more virtuous than somebody like Trump. When in reality, we all have aspects of ego, just like Trump, that we have to learn to correct within our own selves so that we too do not go out and hurt other people. With that said, then let's talk about what the Source showed me in terms of what's going on with Trump and why that's important to the collective of humanity and how it is applying to the Great Awakening right now. Again, I covered this 5 years ago or 6 years ago, but I'm recovering it now because of the assassination attempt. So I was very clearly shown that behind the scenes, there were some enemies that Trump has that were involved in the capacity for them to access him in this situation. I was very clearly shown that he was not part of the staging of this event, but it was a staged event. I was very clearly shown that he was betrayed again. He's been betrayed by many. He's a very difficult character because he has so much dynamics about him that are both polarities. And he has positive and negative polarities in his own self that are playing out and triggering everybody on every side. So there's a lot going on there. He was betrayed again. He is going through a rite of passage. That's what it's called spiritually, to go through an initiation, a rite of passage to cause the soul to evolve. And I was shown that, and I was shown this years ago, that this is why he was called into this. I talked about it in my last video also, that this is part of his Great Awakening. This is part of his spiritual journey of killing his ego or transmuting his ego. This is part of his death and rebirth. And we all have this, and we all will go through this. God does not take a perfect soul and enlighten them. God takes a broken, damaged, corrupted soul and brings them into the rebirth, or what people call being reborn again. If it's a true rebirth, a true one, then they're going to reach full enlightenment, which is the highest state of evolution. There can be along the way rebirth cycles that the soul will go through many times before they achieve full enlightenment. But the soul, all souls, will go through this. Okay? So this is where Trump is at in his personal spiritual journey. He's been in bed, if you want to call it that, with many snakes, many of which I don't believe all that he understood were snakes. I know that he knew that some of them are, because again, I have personal inside knowledge of Trump and his business dealings. And he's a very good businessman. That doesn't mean he was a good man, okay? But he's also not entirely corrupt in every way, the way that a lot of people are saying that he is. There's a lot of lies out there, a lot of lies being spun that really aren't true about him either. and they're catching your spirit energy and dragging you under into the underworld to hold you in that frequency of hate and disdain and judgment, because they know you'll bite into it if you're a low frequency being. And that goes for people that don't like Biden and Obama, and they're running around saying all these horrible things online about anybody. If you're doing that about anybody, you're not in the light. Now, we know that there are some people who are working for dark forces, and we can talk about that, that we do need to sometimes lay it on the table in order for others to understand, hey, watch what's going on over here, because there's something not right. So I really respect anybody that does that about anyone. But at the same time, if we're bopping each other all day over the head, we're refusing to look at our own selves and correct our own selves, and we're busy doing this, and then they're taking advantage of that and taking you under and getting you to believe in things that cause you to be a hateful person, to work against the higher consciousness. Higher consciousness means that you have to take that initial reaction of wanting to hate him, and you have to try to get into your higher soul and say, well, what's the spirit saying about this? Well, the spirit's saying, well, he is still a child of God. He is still a child of God. And if he's a child of God, I probably shouldn't be going around and telling everybody that I wish that they would have hit him with that bullet. Because if I'm sending that out into the universe, most likely it's going to come back to me. That's how the universe works. You've got to be careful of those seeds that you're sowing into the heart of the universe, because they do come back. They ricochet. They're like a boomerang. Remember that when you're casting stones, because that's what a lot of people are doing on every angle right now. Okay. So again, the whole point of the message is that Trump is being initiated into a higher state of consciousness. He's not there yet. He's going through what we would call the crucifixion. I too went through a crucifixion in my journey. I went through a crucifixion. I went through a Garden of Gethsemane experience. I went through a resurrection. I went through all of these things because these are rites of passage that a soul will go through in their spiritual journey when they are ready to go through enlightenment. Trump is an imperfect soul who is being polished really, really hard right now by the diamond mill. And the spirit also wants you to understand too that Trump's role in humanity to go through this rite of passage in the front of all of humanity is happening because it's being projected out for everyone to witness. Not Trump, but God's way. God's way. Because when you see that after this bullet nicked his ear, he dropped on the ground, he prayed, he was in prayer pose. I shared a picture about it. In that instant, I heard from the angelic world his prayers. I heard all of his prayers. And I know that that instant changed him. And I promise that you're going to start to see some change in him now. Watch. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to be perfect yet, because he hasn't gone through total enlightenment yet. That would have been like a near-death experience that many souls have gone through before, that can start to cause their soul to awaken. Whoa, this was rough. He's going to have a lot of more issues with courts. He's going to have a lot of other battles. He's still going to have lots of people coming after him. He's going to win. I can tell you that he's going to win unless something real bad happens, but I've seen him winning. And I've also seen him go through more tribulation. But after a little while, that's going to start to get washed clean. Now, again, I know that there's a lot of you guys out there that have different perspectives and all these different realities that you're believing in. I honor all of those. I know that everybody's in different stages of evolution. But I would again encourage you to try to understand that the way that the spirit world works is that the spirit world is working for all of our highest good. And that sometimes is very hard for humans to understand when they're in their third density consciousness. until you ascend into other dimensions and can see things from other worlds, then it's going to be, you have to stay in a state where you can trust things spiritually are happening for your highest good, and you can try to look for them and try to understand what is the spirit world doing in every situation. Because what may look really dark on one level from the spirit world is not at all. And this attempt was um, orchestrated, as I said, not just from beings on earth that were working against him, but also being directly orchestrated by what I call key men that are in the 4D or the fourth dimension. And no, I got very much confirmation that he was not part of it. It was not a blood pack in his ear that he tapped on. I was very much shown that that's not the case. And I was also shown that he is being initiated. Now, how that unfolds, because lots of souls who have gone through ascension and enlightenment took many years, sometimes decades, to get to where they worked through and integrated that. He's not there yet, but he's definitely being initiated. And I do believe that that bullet through the ear was a pivotal moment for him to get right with the divine. And you can be the judge of how you see that going down the road. But again, remember that the ultimate judgment belongs only to source, not to me, not to you, not to anybody. It's always up to source. And it's our job to learn to love each other and to trust that God's the one that has the plan for everything that's unfolding, so that we ourselves don't become trapped in the lower frequency of believing ourselves to be the one who is controlling things behind the scenes. It's not for us to judge what is being worked out in Trump's journey spiritually, okay? On a human 3D level, we certainly can hold him accountable to doing things for humanity that humanity needs done in what's right for us. However, because humans are so divided left and right, most of them have no business saying what is right or what is wrong, because they don't even know the truth yet. And that's why we have so many problems in the political arena, is that it's being run by people who are not in the light, and being dictated to them by others who are not in the light, be it the parasitic elites or be it the many souls who are just under mind control and don't know why they believe this or they believe that, because they've been implanted to believe things that are not true either. So again, I encourage you to understand that there's a bigger picture at play. I am not saying that Trump is an enlightened soul. He is not at all. None of them are. None of the politicians are. I don't vote for somebody, especially if they're not enlightened, okay? But I understand the role that everybody has, and I understand the whole scheme of things. And I realize that there's an importance in where we're at in our journey right now as a collective. We are not in a state yet where the collective of humanity is as awakened as they think they are. And they make that very clear and very evident to us every single day with all of the horrific things that they're saying about every politician and everyone else in between, by sending out hate, hate, hate into the collective. And it is bogging the system down for us. We need to remain in our wholeness. We need to remain in our truth and our humility, so that we can remember that Source is always working things out for all of us behind the scenes, and that these politicians are imperfect people just like everyone, just like me and you, okay? We are not here to be perfect. We're here to evolve, and the highest state of perfection is enlightenment. So if you really want to cast stones at somebody else for their imperfections, you must first become enlightened. And when you become enlightened, you will see that everything already is perfect, even in its imperfection. I hope that that assisted you guys, and I will see you on the next one. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, leave your comments, share it out to others so that others can hear the message. And feel free to ask me other questions if you'd like me to make videos for you on other topics. Okay, namaste.